Former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon. He is also joining us this morning from the border state of Arizona. Steve, it's great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Maria, thanks for having me on.
You've been doing a lot at that border. First off, give us your take on where we are in this crisis. We have seen a real improvement in the last 2 months, given the president's partnership with Mexico. How do you see it from on the ground?
Well, listen, it's a crisis, but President Trump, I think his actions are starting to have a huge impact. You know, he's got the deal with Guatemala, the safe harbor, the safe nation deal, which is to let's sort the problem out of the asylum seekers down there in the Northern Triangle. He's also worked with Mexico on the migrant protection program now that they go back to Mexico to wait. In addition, this threat of the tariffs really got, and I can tell you because I've been down on the southern border for about the last 3 or 4 weeks, he's got the Mexican Marines and the Mexican military up on the northern border to stop the cartels. This is all about the cartels. The cartels control the border on the Mexican side. What President Trump is doing is trying to break the back of the cartels. And now, like your previous guest said from a couple of weeks ago or from last week, getting that defense money, that $2.8 billion, President Trump and the Army Corps of Engineers are starting to build long swaths of new wall and replace old wall on the southern border. So I think things are heading in a positive direction, but that's because President Trump, having fought everybody from Congress to the media to the progressive left, is now, and the cartels is really starting to see, I think we're starting to see some real traction.
Yeah, you make a good point about the drug lords. When we took the show to the border a couple of months ago, I was stunned at what I witnessed in terms of children being put in these dangerous situations. And what I was told by the Border Patrol people, they were kids crossing, and that this picture here is an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. They lost their mother, and we were just shocked at what was going on in terms of these kids being put into these positions, because some of them are with people who are not their family, and they were rented to these people so that they can look like families because the loopholes allow them in. But the issue is that once you get close to the border, the drug lords want to shake you down and say, okay, you can't go these extra 5 steps until you give us money. So it really is a very dangerous situation with those drug lords.
Look, these cartels are very sophisticated paramilitary operations. They understand that the human trafficking part of this, Maria, is a higher margin business than even the drug trafficking. And that's what's been allowed to happen. President Trump is trying to stop that. Remember, the whole purpose of the wall is to get people to go through the ports of entry, where the rule of law takes place and you can sort all this situation out. That's why the southern wall's so important. It's not a total solution, but it's the beginning of a solution. But you're seeing right now, and I think Mexico, Guatemala, others, understand the threat that these cartels pose to the citizens of northern Mexico, to the citizens of Guatemala, and the citizens of the border towns of the United States. President Trump, I think, is taking pretty dramatic action.
You have been trying to work with private property owners to build wall where you can, away from the government's efforts, right? Tell us what you're doing, Steve.
Well, the Army Corps of Engineers, remember, President Trump's going to build, I think, like 1,200 miles of wall. There are certain sectors where private property owners have that the Army Corps of Engineers have either deemed as too difficult or just bypassed it. We built our first mile of wall actually down in the El Paso sector in the most dangerous part, which the Border Patrol told us the most dangerous part on Mount Cristo Rey, really going up the side of a mountain. We have stopped the incursions 100% since we built the wall. I'm down here in Arizona. This private group, as we build the wall, that the triple amputee hero Brian Kolfage, the Air Force veteran, has founded. We've raised about $25 million. I'm down here in Arizona. We're in the Rio Grande Valley. We've had about 30 different private landowners approach us now. They've seen our wall in New Mexico, in Sunland Park, to actually help them. These are areas where the Army Corps of Engineers has determined these are niches. We're a niche player. President Trump and the Army Corps are building long runs of wall on the southern border right now.
This, of course, is a campaign promise that the president is keeping. I want to ask you about the state of play for 2020, going into this incredible election that we have. Up until just about a month ago, a lot of the president's skeptics, or the Democratic hopefuls, have been calling it a manufactured crisis. You've seen the Democrat contenders. Who do you think is most poised to be a real threat to President Trump?
I got to tell you right now, and I said this last week, Maria, I don't see anybody that's on that stage right now that can take President Trump one-on-one. You know, I pride myself, he's called me his star pupil, his top pupil. I've been studying this pretty thoroughly. I don't think you see the state of play, and I don't care what the polls say on Biden. Joe Biden is not going to be able to stand up to Donald Trump. He's weak on China. He's in business with China. You've seen this soft focus he's had the last couple of days. If the Democratic Party thinks that Joe Biden's going to be able to go mano a mano with Donald Trump in a general election campaign, they've got another thing coming. He will run the tables on Biden. Now, the second-tier candidates are the other candidates like Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren. I just haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it on that stage, and I certainly haven't seen it in Iowa, where I think they're taking a very unsophisticated approach to China. I just haven't seen it. I don't believe, and I say this, I'm not so sure that his opponent has even declared yet. I think you got to watch guys like Bloomberg, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, a whole raft of potential that I think are going to look very closely and see if anybody, because the Democrats' #1 focus is to defeat Donald Trump. So I'm not so sure that you've even seen the candidate up there right now. Certainly nobody on that stage, I think, takes on Trump one-on-one.
So you think Michelle Obama, Hillary Clinton, or Michael Bloomberg can still come into this race?
Oh, I think there's going to be ample opportunity to come into this race later in November, December, even when the primaries start. Maybe a candidate can't win the primary season, but they can take it into the convention. Look, the Democrats are going to be very focused on one thing. This is why Tom Steyer jumped in so late last week or 2 weeks ago. The Democrats are focused on defeating Donald Trump. They realize, unlike some of the Republican establishment, he's a historic figure and a transformative president. They want it, just like in 2018, they are totally focused, like they focus on the House of Representatives. They are focused on defeating Trump. That's where they want to go. And I got to tell you, in the primary season, I think there's a number of potential Democratic candidates still out there that could join this race.